Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 191 of Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. Welcome to the Stargate Oral History Project. Thanks so much for being with me today on this Monday. Steve Makaj is joining us for this episode, and we're going to talk about his career, Colonel Makepeace, and treason and betrayal, and juicy villains that you just love to sink your teeth into. Before we get really into this, I'd like you to consider clicking the like button. It makes a difference with YouTube and will help the show continue to grow its audience. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend, and if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next few days and weeks on thegateworld.net and Dial the Gate YouTube channels. As this is a live episode, we have Steve joining us right now, so if you are in the live chat, go ahead and submit your questions over to Anthony, and he will get them over to myself, and I will relay them to Steve. Steve Makaj, Colonel Makepeace on Stargate SG-1. Thank you. Is it Makaj? Did I pronounce that right?
It's Makaj, actually.
Makaj, excuse me.
Doesn't look like Makaj. Doesn't look like Makaj with that J there on the end, but that's how we've pronounced it since I was born. Now, it sounds like a Scottish name. Makaj is a Scots name, M-C-K-I-E or M-A-C-K-A-Y. With the J, it's actually Polish. My father was Polish. And I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, I didn't verify it, that the Scots 200 years ago were imported to Poland to help them mine coal. So perhaps it was originally Scottish, Policized, and I don't know if that's true, but anyway, my mother's Slovak, my father was Polish, so it's Makaj.
So are you from Canada originally? Are you Canada born, or are you immigrated?
Yeah. I was born in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My mother came from Slovakia.
Okay. And
my father, he was Canadian born, but his parents were from Poland.
Oh, all right. Was there any acting or creative where did the acting impulse come for you, Steve? Where did the creative impulse come for you? Is it from family, or did they cultivate it for you?
Oh, definitely from family, and it was a very strong impulse because my mother's brother, who also came from Slovakia in 1939, Steve, his name was, and they were farmers. They were peasant farmers in Slovakia, and came to Canada to farm as well. And my uncle, Steve, a farm boy growing up just outside of Hamilton in a place called Linden, decided that he wanted to be an actor. And he told my old country grandparents, his parents, that he was going to Hollywood to be an actor, and they didn't know what he was talking about. He went and became very famous, actually. And he is the main driver and reason behind why I became an actor, because his influence was so powerful in my life. He, in the 60s, going back to shows like The Virginian, Bonanza, Gunsmoke, I Dream of Jeannie, Madigan, Mission Impossible, Star Trek. He was a very prominent character on Star Trek.
Who was he in Star Trek?
Lord Garth. He was Lord Garth.
Oh, of Izar.
Of Izar. Yes, Lord Garth of Izar, in an episode called Whom Gods Destroy. And so Uncle Steve was on the TV so often. For me as a child growing up, watching him was very impactful. And then when he'd come home at Christmas, back to the farm, or Easter, there he was, bigger than life, Uncle Steve. And it couldn't help but plant seeds in my heart. And so when I became, I actually studied film and television for a couple of years, but the call to acting was too strong, and I ventured off into that in Toronto back in 1984.
Was there a lot of, you're not going to make a lot of money in this business, or was it, well, Uncle Steve can do it, so can you? Or
no,
was it a little bit of both?
There were warnings, and there was a little bit of both. Funny you should say that. There was a little bit of both. They knew how, hard it could be, although he did very well. Unfortunately, consequently, he passed away at 37 years old in Caen, France. In Caen, France, of a heart attack. He was found in a bathtub there with a movie that he wrote, produced, directed, starred in. Ed Asner was in the movie, who was a good friend of his. Arthur O'Connell an actor back in that day, was in it. He financed it. He took it there to sell it, and
Wow.
he was found dead in the bathtub, unfortunately, and so my parents, my grandparents knew it was not altogether an easy life at
Yeah.
times. It was difficult.
Yeah.
However, his fan club, who would show up at Christmas and Easter, the lady who headed it, when I announced that I was going to walk in his footsteps, she really encouraged me to do so, and so
Wow.
I had a bit of both. Yeah.
Wow. I did
Yeah.
not realize that it ran so strong through your family. I I at least try not to, but often take for granted the building blocks that make up my identity and who I am, and how much
Right.
it's not just me making it up as I go along. So much of
Right.
it is influenced from where I come from and the people who were involved in my life. And it's like you
Absolutely.
have to remember to give those people credit for it, the good and the bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to take both and sift it and deal with it and learn
Right.
from it and keep going.
Wow. So I have to call out something specific. Um, one of the my great memories from childhood is Stephen King's It.
Right.
That was a hugely important miniseries. And you want to talk about like helping form your identity, some of the things that you take in.
Right.
What an experience that has, I don't know in terms of what it was for you then, but in terms of the cult fan base that has followed it. I think you participated in the documentary that was shot about that, didn't you?
I did. Yes, I did.
What
Yes.
I mean, it has like it. I grew up with that in terms of like what my perception of great horror and comedy put together can
Right.
be. With
Right.
Tim
Right.
Curry, you're laughing
Yes.
in 1 minute and you're shaking in your boots, terrified the next. At least I was
Yes.
as a kid. How has it been watching that fan base continue to persist over 30 years?
Well, it tells me what you're saying is that it had such an impact on people's lives, and in fact, the people who were um, asking me to take part in the documentary, there was a lady involved. She said, I had nightmares because of you.
Right. They
I had nightmares because of
froze.
you, and I thought, oh wow, I had no idea, right? I was just, a young actor at the time. I just came in from Toronto. It was around 1990, I believe. I got to Vancouver around
Yeah.
1989, and
Yeah.
got this part, and I had no idea really what I was getting involved in. Or the
Sure, I'll stand
longevity.
in a pond in an Air Force uniform. What's the problem? No big deal. Nah, the kids will love it. Whoa.
Oh, they had to take me out there with a rowboat, and
Right.
they rowboated me out there, and they had obviously just under the water they had built a platform
Yeah.
that I stood on. And I was out there, and all the crew was on the shore, and there was Tommy Lee, the director, and everybody,
Yeah.
and the boy was there, and
Yeah.
there I was standing in front of that ominous-looking edifice behind me there,
The sewer.
where I lived, the sewer, yes, into the sewer cavern. So I had no idea at the time what I was involved in, and the impact it would have and the longevity, and then the sequel and the documentary, and it was like wow. So it was,
Yeah.
and I continue to get royalty checks from it, fairly handsome
There
ones
you go.
because of it's still being sold, obviously worldwide. And yeah, it's
There is
popularity.
something to be said about entertainment that captivates the imagination, and you don't necessarily know that it's happened. Sometimes you do, I'm sure, when you're shooting it, but other
Yes,
times it's a sleeper, and it's like it comes down to not just the acting and your day on set, but also the editing and the music and everything that comes into play.
everything.
What kind of entertainment, what movies or television have really captivated, or some actors don't watch either? Is
Yeah.
there any that really you have identified with over the years, or you say, that is something that made me feel something, in terms of watching a film or a TV series? Any
Well, many
that
of
you love?
right. There are many, but The Godfather,
Ah,
part one, two, and three, I love to watch. And just going back to what you were saying about you don't know at the time you're making a movie the impact it's going to have. I think I recall Al Pacino saying, like, we didn't know, what we were making here. We're just going to work and we're doing our parts, and Francis was directing, and we really didn't know the impact that it was going to have, and it sure did have an impact, and on me particularly, because everything, like you say, the music, the cinematography, the acting, the wardrobe of the characters, everything, the pacing, the tone, Coppola's direction, just created a masterpiece there, which I love, and just love to recite the dialogue of the characters, which I become more and more familiar with as I watch it occasionally again.
I hadn't known about it until Seinfeld, so it was always, never mess with a family, Jerry. And then I went and saw it, and I'm like, this is so good. It's like, no wonder it's referenced, repeatedly throughout the years.
Oh, it's awesome. And and the fight they had to have, like Coppola, to get Pacino to play Michael Corleone. They didn't want him. And I read recently that the kicker was for them the scene they shot, because they weren't really, when they were getting the early rushes, the studio heads were going, I don't know, we're gonna pull the plug on this, I don't know. But when they saw the scene where Michael shoots the police captain and Salazzo, when they saw that, they went, oh, okay.
Now they get it.
They got it. Yeah.
Wow. Steve, before we get into Makepeace, is there any particular role that you can talk about that really hit you profoundly as a person in terms of the work, or has it surprised you in a way that was unexpected?
You mean with any role, or
you specifically? Yeah, with any role.
Roles I've played. That's a good question. Wow, that's a loaded question.
I know. I apologize. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Colonel Makepeace, it was just probably to date my biggest military foray into a military type role, which went 5 episodes, and I got to flush, and I did consequently many afterward military type characters, and police captains and lieutenants and police and whatever.
Travelers with Brad again.
Travelers, yes, yeah. Travelers. That's right. Bat Masterson. I played Bat Masterson. I did him twice, and he was a legendary lawman. He was a historical figure as well. He knew Wyatt Earp and those characters during the Wild West days. And one thing I learned about Bat Masterson that I didn't know and was surprised about was that he was actually born in Iberville County, Quebec. So he was Canadian born, but the family migrated south, and so that was fun. I mean, to explore the Western genre. Emotionally, I've done some emotional roles that I really had to dig into emotionally, which challenged me as an actor. And they were like episodic television type roles, but Street Justice was one where there's a boy. My wife and I had a boy, and the boy was being abused, and by all appearances, it appeared to be me. However, it ended up being the wife. And Carl Weathers was in that show, and I remember, Carl in one scene where we're nose to nose, challenging me about that, and me pushing back, but not really knowing how to defend myself. So
kid stuff, Street Justice.
Street Justice, that's right. Street Justice. When Stephen J. Cannell was in town here, he did a lot of episodic television, that being one, The Commish being another. Even back to Jump Street, which I did an episode of when I arrived in town. Kind of a minor part when I just got here, but Johnny Depp, of course.
Yep. And Peter DeLuise.
And Peter DeLuise, that's correct. Yes, that's right. So, I've done theater roles too, which, were very, to me, challenging and very ones I could really engage. Shakespeare, I love Shakespeare. I've done some Shakespeare. One particular role, it's really hard to pin down one particular role. It
may be, and I think, that's a reflection of the body of work that you've been privileged to do. That's a good thing, to say that, I've been blessed with a number of different things. It's hard to pick one. It's kind of like your child.
Well, you're right.
I get it.
Like I'm a character actor in a leading
Yeah.
man's kind of body and maybe face, and that's been a bit of a challenge too for me. But I'm a character actor. You know, before I got into acting, I was the guy with the group of friends who was doing the imitations and kind of acting out things and scenes and stuff for movies. And, I'm a character actor. So as I get a little older now, well, a lot older actually. Um, My birthday is coming up, actually.
Happy
June
early
12th.
birthday.
Yes, thank
There
you
you
very much.
go.
The door for character acting may get a little broader. Again, I don't know, but I kind of forced myself into character roles just by the auditions I did and got the parts, and I think did them largely justice. And thank you for saying privileged, because yeah, I do feel privileged to have had the opportunity to do what I've done.
Colonel Makepeace. Your first episode was Broca Divide.
That's right.
And the episode where half the SGC went caveman. You among them. This was the first appearance of the SG-3 Marines. It wasn't just Air Force. And I love your... I love the have it your way, flyboy. Makepeace and O'Neill were never the best of friends. The two alpha males, they would put everything aside and work together. But, I mean, and then later on with Into the Fire, Makepeace, nice rescue.
Yeah.
There were some great beats between you and Rick.
That was, I felt that one. That hurt a little bit. That would hurt me. And I think, I think Amanda tongue-in-cheek said, "Don't worry, it happens to everybody." Richard Dean's the man, and I get it. It's his show. He's the ultimate top star of it. And a little tough for me to be kneeling down there with my hands
right, exactly.
Captured. Captured after so much, successful fighting. But anyhow, I had to suck it up. Whatever, but yeah.
Tell us about getting Makepeace for that first episode for Broca Divide.
Yeah, that's a good. Do I even remember that?
They were looking for some muscle, They were needing people with a can-do attitude who could go through our military types, who could go through and extract people in difficult situations.
Right.
You need boots on the ground. You need extraction. You call the Marines. So
well, that's it exactly. And Into the Fire was that was there's a lot going on there, and a lot of different scenes, a lot of different modes, and a lot of variety. And
was Makepeace an audition?
Yeah, I had to audition originally, and it wasn't the first one. Broca Divide.
Yep.
And I can't recall the audition particularly. And it was Carol Kelsey, who was a supporter of mine, who called me in for that, and I got the part. And then I think beyond that, what I heard, though I can't verify it, was that it was Martin Wood, who was part of the consultation team, I believe, to develop the show further, who suggested that Colonel Makepeace be brought in to the show a little more and developed. And I believe that's how Makepeace, went on to do 5 episodes.
I loved that the show, which had 4 seasons right out of the gate, and then 5 guaranteed almost immediately after that, was so committed to building on its own mythology, and that included the people in front of the camera. It's like, we haven't seen them in a while. Let's bring them back in. Are they advancing? Are they still doing their thing? And you were one of the reminders that this is potentially a real place, that we could be going about our day. I often bring up, and guests do too, we could be in the grocery store and be passing by someone who could be going to some underground complex, going to other planets and saving our asses week after week, and you just don't know.
Right.
And these people are out there on other missions, and it's not just SG-1. These people are out there doing a job too. So a vital job.
Exactly. And I saw that in Into the Fire. What was the last one I did? It was called, bear with me.
Shades of Grey.
Shades of Grey.
What a good episode. I want to get to that, but yeah. Into the Fire is another great episode for you. You have that opening shot running through the SGC upstairs. Season 3.
Right. I think that's the one I'm going to backtrack to, Shades of Grey.
Mm,
Yeah, but when Richard was supposedly retired, when he was being reprimanded for stealing the
yes.
device, and he was in retirement. There, you saw that he had a home, right?
Yeah.
It was in a neighborhood. He had a chessboard. He had a living room. He had, like you're saying, the community of Stargate wasn't only, Stargate Command and the gate. It was a little outside of that as
Mm,
well, or a lot outside of that. And there, where, as you're saying, people you wouldn't suspect are involved, are
mm.
involved in the cause, or, have a cause, or yeah.
What was it? Can you tell me about the firearms training that you went through? Especially for Into the Fire, where there's a lot of fire, or there's a lot of weapons discharge, mostly at force fields.
Right,
But I
right.
imagine they didn't just hand this to you and say light them up. I bet you had to go through some kind of training regimen.
Oh, absolutely. And Rob was the fellow. And can I recall Rob's last name? Maybe not at this time. Rob, yeah, he was a former, as I understand, Canadian military guy who was our armorer and trainer. And I believe he had quite a cachet of weaponry as well that he, would lease to the show and
Rob Fournier.
show. Rob Fournier, there you
Yep,
go. Thank you.
absolutely.
Yes, Rob Fournier. Very good. Yeah, so Rob was great. And he was very detailed and very committed and very safe and very, reassuring, and was very concerned that you got it, what he was talking about, and showed you all the ins and outs of any weapon that you were going to be firing, and how it was going to work, how it was going to go. And yeah, I really appreciated Rob. Very nice guy too. And yeah, there was some pretty heavy weaponry we were utilizing there. And I mean, it felt like real warfare to me. It was lots of
Hmm.
fun, and having so many guys, to command, and you really felt part of a military unit.
There is something to be said for when you are taught to respect a weapon, and you put on the clothing, and you're leading a unit. I imagine after that, it doesn't take much to really get into feeling that you are a part of this vast unit, you know, that's ridding the galaxy of evildoers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to childhood, boys playing army with
Right.
toy guns. This was it. This was on an advanced, sophisticated scale now. And it wasn't just the wardrobe and the helmets and the weaponry. You had radio pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You had communication devices. You were in different situations. You were, people were looking to you. You were the commander. You were the leader. You had to own up to that. You had to be that. You had to, you had to portray that. You had to communicate that. And to me, it was wow, cool. I've never
Absolutely.
been, I've never been in the army, but I am now.
Right. You have to go through a lot of a lot of the same training just to make it look right. You have to make it feel
Oh,
right. So,
absolutely. Oh, and the hand signals as well. I think Rob
yes.
was showing us. I have those hand signals there. They were all very accurate and realistic. What an army commander would use to maneuver his troops and direct them. Yeah,
For Broca Divide, did you have any facial makeup done for you?
I
Do you
did.
recall what was that experience like?
Well, it was pretty. They just put the molding on and then cover it, and then I think my brows were as Neanderthal like, protruding somewhat, and something in my face, I believe. My chin came out a little bit, but the brow definitely, and the accentuated forehead enlarged somewhat. I think it was all sort of prosthetics, and if I recall, and yeah, I think I was doing something with my mouth too to make me a little more kind of ape-like.
Do you recall? Were you there on the set the day Rick said they showed him his forehead piece, and he's like, "No, I'm not wearing that. Adjust it. We can do better than that." Were you there that
No,
day?
I wasn't there that day. I didn't catch that, nor did I hear that story, but that's interesting.
I mean, you're executive producer. You know, you have you have a certain level of what's the word? A certain standard that you expect for your show. Your name is going to be on the top of it. Yeah, you know, you have a little bit of pull to do that. And Broca Divide is one of the more interesting episodes of Stargate SG-1 for sure. But you know, you have to. The show was still figuring out what it is and what it wanted to say and how it was going to do it. You know?
Exactly. And they had me in that cage, in that prison cell there. It really took me back to theater school days. You know, some exercises we did in theater school were, you know, taking on an animal and expressing an animal and getting into an animal body, animal movements, animal behaviorisms. And I think that all came back that day to me, you know, to do the ape-like thing. And, you know, theater school opens the door for that, to give you a bit of an orientation in that kind of work.
The realization that Mansfield is a double agent. Were you told that when you were coming back? Did you read it first in the script? How was that information presented to you for the first time? And what was your reaction?
Well, to tell you the truth, the reading of the script was done at Bridges Studios, and it was a large table reading, and I hadn't seen the script at that point. And as I proceeded into reading the script and was learning about, you know, hearing about Richard Dean and what he's done and that he's going to retire, I was getting a little excited. I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, are they maneuvering Makepeace here into the top spot? You know, could this be more than just a 5-episode deal? Could I go 6 years with the show from here on in? And then as I read further and learned what my fate was, my heart began to sink a little, and I realized that this could be it for Makepeace. And I was disappointed. To tell you the truth, I was, oh man. So that's when I first learned that I was this, which to me, you know, as you sent me the links to the episodes, and as I wasn't able to see all of them, like Broca Divide, I wish I had more time, but I did see Shades of Grey and Into the Fire. And looking at those two, one preceding the other, and looking at those battle scenes, and when I'm with Amanda and Michael in the tunnels, and we're fighting together, and I'm getting them out, or you know, we're doing our best to deal with the situation. I really thought, you know, well, we really kind of bonded there, and we really kind of liked each other. And then, you know, in the last episode, the one we're talking about, I thought that all kind of went out the window. I mean, I didn't have much interaction with Tilk. And he apparently doesn't seem to like me, you know, when I'm
the Jaffa, yeah.
The Jaffa,
yeah.
The Jaffa. He didn't, you know, when I'm introduced to him as the new commander, colonel, that's okay. But with Amanda and Michael, there seemed to be also a little consternation that I am going to be the new, you know, head. And I thought, does that really jive with, you know, the last episode, which preceded it, where we seem to bond and seem to be fighting together. And so I don't know, really, you know, I guess I don't know about Makepeace, why his fate ended such, but well, you know, whatever. It's their show. They do what they want and take it where they want. But yeah, I was a little disappointed.
I can understand. I think one of the things that makes Shades of Grey so good as a story, and one that's continually, you know, referenced throughout the rest of the show in one form or the other, is that, and Orville just adapted that for their 3rd season episode Domino. Very similar. You've got people who have been put in the line, in the case of Makepeace, have been put in the line of fire so many times. If someone comes and says to you, hey, you know, I want you to be the one on our behalf to go out and get more technology to protect us, to protect people like you who are going out in the line of fire. In particular, an invisibility device. your guys may not have to die anymore.
Yes.
Now, putting the swearing an oath aside, you can understand how some people might feel that, if this can protect my guys, Makepeace is still true to his convictions. He's about to get court-martialed, but still at the same time, he firmly believes that what he was doing was right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's that fine line. And then, I was curious too about when I say you don't know how high up this goes.
Right.
Did we ever go that high up to find out who those high ups were? Mm-hmm. Where did that come from? My statement. Who am I referring to? Did the show ever resolve that?
Are you asking me? Because I know the answer. Yeah. Ronnie Cox, Senator Kenzie. So, he was chairman of the Appropriations Committee and had a special executive gag order placed on him to not disclose the Stargate program. But it was at least to him and probably to many others. So there were people who were trying to, and the Rogue NID, and eventually called the Trust, trying to subvert the SGC to get the technology that they believed that they needed to protect the planet. And at the same time, if we get a little something for ourselves along the side, well, oops.
Well, that happens, doesn't it? You know quite a bit about the show. I did the episodes and watched the show, but probably not as closely as you. I was busy doing other things and other shows and what have you. I mean, I would like to, as I said, continue with the show as Colonel Makepeace, but
hey, he could always come out of it. And you're referenced in a couple of novels. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There is, in which books are they? You can go and pick them up. It's SG-1's Insurrection and Hydra. Maybourne actually goes to Jack that says, Makepeace may know some information on this one. And Jack goes to Makepeace in prison. I think they cut him a deal, to make his living conditions a little bit more comfortable. And Makepeace helps out. Makepeace is a patriot.
Right.
And regardless of how you agree with his tactics, that's what he believes. And, that's just how, what is it like playing a character with shades of gray? Is it far more interesting than just playing the straight up, goody two shoes hero?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you're a little bit of a portrait of, I wouldn't say contradictions. I mean, to somebody looking at your actions, I guess you seem that way. But for yourself, you've got to maneuver, in your mind often, and probably justify to people who are aware of, obviously, as I had to with, Carter and General Carter and O'Neill in the end scene there, I had to justify what I've done. And so that takes a little bit of in-depth reasoning, in-depth decision making, sifting what is and again, it's all perspective, how they value general, the general value the relationship with the alien nations, where that's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as that. Makepeace, realize that it's not as simple as that. Well, he's a military man. He's a Marine. Perhaps he had, different training in the matter. Their Marine training, Marine Corps training is a little more. SEAL training, of course, is even more
intense
and demanding, and requires, that kind of resolve to do what's best, as you said, Makepeace is a patriot, to do what's best for his country, to help them survive. Friendship is one thing, survival is another. And some friendships are not as they appear. They may not, in fact, be friendships. They may be false friendships. You might be being deceived, right? So, so it's a lot more interesting. It requires a lot more, imaginative, in-depth reasoning.
I think one of my favorite episodes is Korai from season 1 of SG-1. And Teal'c is on trial on an alien planet for having committed crimes under Apophis. And Hammond takes the perspective for a moment that, you know, Teal served a regime that did some damn distasteful things. And then Rick, as Jack says, General, I have spent many years in the service of my country, and I have been ordered to do some damned distasteful things.
Right.
So there's a little bit of accountability there where it's like, you know, it's not black and white. And there is some greater good, for better or for worse, that's being bandied about. And I can see how a person like Makepeace might be drawn into a situation where, you know, it was all about the mission. I'm being ordered to do this. I'm going to do it. I've been asked by someone whom I respect to do this. I'm going to do that. And then later steps back and goes, oh, maybe I'm now just for the first time thinking about it this way, because all I was thinking about was my men and how can I protect people the next time that they get shot at.
Right. Exactly. Well, it's men first, probably. You know, their loyalty first and foremost is to their immediate unit, I think, and then beyond that, their country. But it's that individual fighting unit in the field that is really piece by piece, battle by battle, action by action, contributing to the overall safety and good of the country. But it begins like the strength of a nation begins with the family unit. So, you know, and like in the military, I would think the same applies, that the strength of the protection and safety of the nation begins with each military unit, each, you know, and so Makepeace was, very much thinking about that as well, about the safety of his guys. He loves his guys. These guys, they love their men. They are responsible for their men. They want to protect their men. They want to keep them safe. They want to keep them alive. And so that's another thing that Makepeace would think to justify some actions which others may deem, you know, inappropriate, illegal, or whatever.
As the son of a Vietnam vet, my father flew Hueys in Vietnam up until the day he retired in 2013. So I really get what you're putting down in terms of loyalty to one's men and to one's country. And so I think that in many respects, yours was a very, aside from the the last few moments, was a very honest portrayal of some of the razors that we have to send out there to do the dirty work. You know, people, there are things that we ask our men and women to do that are not easy, and they do often come home damaged as a result. We have to be there for them. You know, they're not asking to go. So
no, they volunteered to go.
Yeah,
they're courageous people, brave and courageous people that would volunteer or sign up and, you know, go through the training and actually go. I asked myself, you know, Steve, you know, I mean, they wouldn't send me now, but as a young man, I mean, you know, it's wow, that's a big decision to make, and that's such a huge commitment to make to go fight for your country or defend your country or protect your country. That's huge. It's huge.
So at the end, I'm sorry, finish your thought.
Well, I'm just saying we do have to honor that and just appreciate that and to treat them with just the utmost respect for having done that.
I have to ask you, Steve, just as Steve Makaj, do you consider what Makepeace did? Or do you consider him a patriot or a traitor or both?
Good question.
Just you yourself as a person with your beliefs and your ideals and values.
As a person, what would I do? Well, I consider myself, you know, an ethical person. I consider myself, you know, a moral person. Sifting what Makepeace had to sift and consider by acting or not that way. I would say, you really have to.
It's not an easy answer.
You know, it's not an easy answer. You'd have to be in it to really know. You know, I've never been in such a situation like that, with those ramifications, right? With that, the scope of those considerations to make. And,
interspecies relations writing on this decision.
Right, exactly. um, when the stakes get that high, when you amplify the stakes to that height, I would say he's a patriot first. I mean, he's acting from experience as well. I think, he knows he's not coming to this decision lightly or arbitrarily or without any experience in the matter. I mean, he sees things that maybe other people don't see
Yeah.
or can't see, don't have the experience to see, right? And
He went on missions we didn't see.
Well, exactly. And so, don't judge another man until you walk in his shoes,
Yeah.
as the saying goes, right? So I'd say he's a patriot first.
Wow. I think you could make similar arguments for people like Julian Assange or Edward Snowden, when they're looking at situations like, I have information. I believe that this information is important. It's not one-to-one ratio, but I mean, yes. We're dealing with technology in one hand, whereas another hand, we're dealing with information, what the public should and shouldn't know. But I think it's important that we ask those questions and that we have those conversations with one another. And don't just say, well, you're clearly wrong. It's not that simple,
Right.
So.
No, it's not that simple. No, it's not. I mean, some people are willing to let it slide and just, people are distracted by their busy lives and don't have the desire or the ability to focus on, matters of that weight and ask to know the truth. Right. And so, we're all different. We're all different perspectives on things. And it's those, I guess, with a little bit of experience in the matter or, maybe have been conditioned a little bit to think that way or to want to probe into those kind of matters that ask those questions and who, want to enter into that fray and sort of, root out the truth as much as possible. I mean, there's all kinds of barriers to that, of course, and maneuvering that goes on. I mean, so many people involved and so many, individual machinations of everybody's individual mind going this way and that way. And, truth is elusive. And how do you, get to it?
I honestly, yeah.
Go ahead. I say somebody knows, somebody I think knows, or maybe they don't, that somebody or somebody's, maybe they don't even know. I don't know, but it starts somewhere. The ball gets rolling from somewhere.
He honestly doesn't strike me as a person who was trading this, doing this dirty work in exchange for a house in the south of France, or he honestly strikes me as someone who wasn't doing it for an extra payday of some regard. He was doing it because he believed it was right. Now that may not be the case. There may have been like a darker intent with him, but I personally don't feel that that's the case.
No, particularly if you look at, again, the preceding episode. I think my performance there portrays a man who is a committed military man who is, he listens to Carter. She has a suggestion. He's willing to follow up on it. He's concerned about them. He's concerned with, getting them out of there. He's concerned with his men. He's concerned, So yeah, I think that episode really shows who the man is, where his integrity lies.
Absolutely. Into the Fire, that first scene where they're in the gate room and Don says as Hammond, okay, anyone who's going to help rescue SG-1, volunteer, take one step forward, and they all do. And you turn and look at the general, and it's like, without surprise or shock on his face, it's like, we're here to do the job. You want us to do it? We're going to do it.
Exactly. No question. And here we go. And even, and Hammond even precedes the stepping forward challenge with, he says how tough it's going to be. Doesn't he say, and some of you might not come back?
Yeah, something along those lines for sure.
Something like that, yeah. And so, that really presents it as a very dangerous situation. And yet that's what we're trained for, and that's what we're going to do. Without question, we're going. And that moment to me when I watch it, I'm moved. I'm moved
Yeah.
by that.
Yeah.
I moved. They stepped forward, and Hammond, and he's so good in
Oh,
that
Don.
scene. Don is so, and Don passed away, didn't he?
He did. Well, do you
Oh,
have a memory of
so
him?
good. Oh, I do. I don't know, just such a generous guy, just generous with his person and his communication to you, and just so classy guy, And I was so sad to hear that he passed away. I was, and then when I watched the episodes there, you sent me the links to again, I just thought of him again, and thought, that's too bad.
Yeah. Great
Yeah,
talent. And
yeah. Oh,
someone who you completely
absolutely.
believe is someone who would be there to keep the light on for the people out there waiting for them to come back home.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Caring guy, a fatherly figure,
Mm-hmm.
in the show, and yeah, loved Don.
Did you know that in Stargate Universe they named their new spaceship after him?
Oh, did they?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
I think he would have been proud of that. So I have the model of her. Where is she? Right
Oh,
there. That's
oh
that's
yeah.
that's the
Cool.
USS George Hammond. So
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
Steve, I've got some fan questions for you before we wrap you up. Is that okay?
Okay, all right.
Um, I guess we okay. Well, General Maximus and Mac Bolan's conscious. They asked, where do you stand on the morality of your character? Is he a bad guy, or was he doing the wrong thing for the right reason? I think we've really answered that.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm going to screw this up. XIX space IXI. I'm not even going to try. I apologize. Do you speak Slovak by any chance?
I wish I did. I don't know if that person asking is Slovak. I wish I did. Unfortunately, and I often think, not to be too critical of my parents, but my father spoke Polish, my mother spoke Slovak to each other. They could understand each other. And I've often thought, growing up, what a waste of a language that the only time they spoke it is when they didn't want us children to hear what they were
Right.
saying.
It's going to
And
get
I thought,
lost.
darn, what a waste of a language. I wish today that I spoke Slovak and that they taught me that. But anyhow, no, I don't. I know a few. Nanya znam, which means I don't know. Nanya znam, I know that. Why? Nanya znam Slovak.
Philip Cannot, if asked, would you come back for the next iteration of Stargate, whatever Amazon is cooking up with MGM, and what kind of role would you prefer?
In a heartbeat, I'd come back. Actors always looking for work, and love to come back as Colonel Makepeace. Love that. I would love that. So I have heard rumors that there's talk of that.
There is talk of something, and
Yes.
everyone loves a good redemption arc. It happened with Maybourne.
There you go.
So absolutely.
There you go. There you
go. Jacob Olihars, have you ever visited Poland? I'm originally from there myself.
Oh,
Jacob says.
No, thank you, Jacob. I have not. I have been to Europe. I have not visited Poland, and that's on my to-do list. Can you? Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can get back and recommend a good place to visit. I'm other than Warsaw, but
right.
If they get back to me and let me know, I appreciate it.
Pamela Teracek, between Into the Fire and Shades of Grey, and I think you also kind of answers this too. So there was no hint at the twist that was coming. You didn't get it until the table read.
That's right, the table read. Yeah, at Bridges Studios. That fateful day. Again, I felt disappointed, excited, and then disappointed. But
here's the thing: not many people get to command SG-1.
Well, there you go.
That too. So you can't. There is that feather in your cap too.
There's a landmark milestone there for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. I think. Someone's else asking me how my trip was. I've been out of town for I think that's for me. Steve, this has been a real treat. What you got going on? Will we be seeing you in anything soon? Are you taking a break? What's going on for you right now?
Well, I'm taking a little bit of a break. I don't know if you know the audition process has kind of changed with COVID. You maybe you're familiar with that. The self-tape thing is going on. And I just did one before we got online here for a Christmas movie. Lately, I've done another movie of the week called Boat One for Love. The kidnapping of Abby Hernandez, Girl in the Shed, I think they also call it. I was in. I did a Riverdale not too long ago.
Okay.
Riverdale.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of a bad guy, a rum runner. Jinx Malloy, episode season 4, episode 18, I think it was. Yeah, so we keep casting. The thing about the self-tape phenomenon now is that it's really opened the door, I think, to a lot more people sending them. Like when we first started doing them, I thought, well, now everybody and his brother can send one, right? Because their files sent to the casting offices, and they vet them. They have a couple of assistants, I think, vetting them. But I'm sure there's a glut coming in from anywhere in the world, really. So the competition, I think, is greatly increased. So whatever, but it's kind of good to help refine your chops. I was going to a studio and doing them, but now I'm back to kind of doing them at home, and I have a little system where I hook up with a friend in Toronto, an actor friend, and we have a little system of doing it, and you can do as many takes as you like.
Right, exactly. No pressure.
No
Go at your
pressure.
speed. As long as you got someone read lines with you, then you're good.
Well, exactly. I did it right here where I'm talking to you not too long ago, a couple hours ago. I did it for a fatherly type character. But yeah, I was also doing music as well. I've been writing songs for many years as well. It's kind of a hobby that I take seriously. I keep doing that.
I think it's so important to have multiple pots to dip into,
Absolutely.
I mean, because it's often, as an actor, feast or famine, and you've got to have other things because not everything's going to be a home run. You can't get all of them. So what are you going to do in the meantime? It's good that you've got
absolutely.
stuff. So
yeah, man.
Absolutely. This has been great, Steve. I really appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate Alec for connecting us. I really thank you for adding your voice to one of the more pivotal characters earlier in SG-1's run.
And thank you for persisting to get me to do it. I know I did one before, and I felt a little uncomfortable. But you kept at me and on me, and I finally said, okay. And I appreciate that because it's been a lot of fun, David. I've enjoyed talking to you and answering your questions and reliving and those days, 22 years ago now.
People still talk about him. You made a mark, and this is an important show in the pantheon of sci-fi. So, I want to thank you. Means a lot to have you.
Thanks for having me on. I wish I did more of those conventions. I only did one in Richmond. Doug Arthurs, who did the show, invited me to. And he said, I said, what do I do? I've never been to one. He goes, well, get some pictures printed. And so I showed up there with my wife and my 2 young sons, and I was met with Kurt, my security liaison. I said, wow, I need a security liaison here. I walked into the Richmond Convention Center, and the place was packed with people.
I think that was really GateCon, wasn't it? I think I may have been at that one.
Well, really?
So, yeah, you guys, they're clawing that show there, man. They want themselves some of Makepeace.
I'll jump on board if anybody wants to have me visit another one.
Well, you know what, GateCon, I'm hopeful that there will be another one, and we will. If that is the case, I'll make sure that they reach out to you. So
awesome, David, you've been awesome, spectacular.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
You take care of yourself, okay?
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Steve Makaj, Colonel Makepeace in Stargate SG-1. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. So just before we let you go, if you enjoyed this content, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with your friends. Coming up, we have, let me pull up the schedule here. Brian J. Smith, Matthew Scott in Stargate Universe, and also Linux, currently airing as Linux in Class of 09 on FX. I believe that's on Hulu. He's joining us Saturday, June the 10th, right here on Dial the Gate. So be sure to join us for that. And then we have a pre-recorded show after that. Sorry about all the bells and dinging. We have the Stargate exhibit of Empire movie props, and that is going to be June the 10th as well at 2 p.m. Pacific time. June 14th, Wednesday, Steve Basic is going to be joining us, Major Coburn and Camulus, and Stargate Trivia 9, hosted by Colin Cunningham, Saturday, June the 17th. And I actually just got confirmation, Gwyneth Walsh You may know her as B'Etor in Stargate and Star Trek: The Next Generation, but we know her as Queen Egeria. She's going to be joining us as well in the next probably 10 days here, 14 days. So we will be getting you that information as we move forward. Thanks again to Steve Makaj for joining me for this episode, and for Anthony for doing the moderating. He's really been hitting it out of the park lately. And Anthony, you have no idea how much I appreciate you just coming in and pulling these things off. Thanks to my producer, Linda Gategaber Fury, and to Frederick Marcoux at Concepts Web, keeping the site up and running. Got a lot heading your way before we close out season 2. We're going to get to that 200th episode pretty soon, and still trying to figure out what we're going to do for it. I've got some ideas, but some stuff's definitely happening. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. I appreciate you all tuning in, and we will see you on the other side.